Okay, in this session, I'm just going to do a review about the assignment for the course. Just give you a few pointers to be thinking about when planning your assignment and putting it together. So firstly, some reminders about the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes are really important for the assignment because they're one of the main things the assignment's assessed against. So we look at the overall quality of your writing, but in terms of the content, we look at whether you have covered or you've demonstrated learning against all four of the learning outcomes. So the first learning outcome is define and critique theories, concepts, and processes which underpin career development practice. So when we looked at sort of theories of career development, that's one of the main things that learning outcomes talk about. Secondly, compare and contrast the effectiveness of a range of delivery models for career development support. So we looked at DOTS and Sisyphus, as well as things like Watts's rationales for career guidance. That's stuff that you might cover against learning outcome number 2. Learning outcome number 3, evaluate the challenges and opportunities for developing and delivering career development support. So this learning outcome is really looking at the particular context that your program's in, and how you could actually develop your delivery. And then 4, identify opportunities for improvement in delivery of career development support. So while 1, 2, and 3 to some extent are mainly looking back at your program as it currently is, learning outcome number 4 is looking about how you would improve it in the future. There's going to be some sort of sense of a plan about what you're going to change mentioned in your assignment. So the actual assignment question: you're going to produce a critical assessment of career development support provision in an organisation of choice with reference to a range of careers theories and policies that support this provision. That could be a 4,000-word assignment, plus or minus 10%, and it's going to be assessed against all 4 of the learning outcomes. And the submission date is March the 22nd at 1300, so 1 o'clock in the afternoon. The word count, so 4,000 words plus or minus 10%, that refers to the main sort of chunk of your writing, like from your introduction through to the end of your conclusion. It doesn't include your list of references, your bibliography. It doesn't include any appendices. It doesn't include the assignment title. It doesn't include any tables or figures that you include as part of your assignment, but it does include the actual references in your text, the bits where you sort of write Smith 2019, and it does include any quotes that you include from policy documents or from academic sources in your assignment. So that's what should be in the 4,000 words. Some things to draw attention to. Firstly, is it talks about assessing career development provision in an organisation of choice. Very obviously, for most people, that's going to involve looking at the school that you work for. It talks about a range of career theories and policies. That's obviously looking back at sort of the ideas you'll be looking at as part of the course. And then finally, it talks about a critical assessment of career development provision. By critical assessment, I sometimes talk about like a supported assessment. Critical doesn't necessarily mean that you draw attention to all the bad points. You absolutely might want to highlight good things that are part of your program. But a critical assessment means a supported assessment. Means that you go to academic literature, to ideas about career development and career support to actually support your views and opinions. So it's coming from the literature and not just from you. So it means that you're not just saying things like our program is really good because it includes lots of employers, but that you'd say a strength of our provision is that that pupils at our school have a chance to meet with employers. This sits in line with Gatsby Benchmark 5, encounters with employers and employees, and it also links in with Bill Law's community interaction theory, which talks about the benefits of learning from other people as part of your career. So that sort of idea, moving away from just your subjective opinion to maybe they're exactly the same ideas, but you're backing it up with policies and theories instead. Here's just a few things just to think about in terms of assessment. Here are some hints and tips. Firstly, introductions and conclusions. I would really encourage you to write an introduction and write a conclusion as part of your assignment. In your introduction, I'd like you to set up how you're approaching the assignment. So give me some background information about your school, talk about how you're approaching writing the assignment, maybe what theories you're going to refer to, maybe talk about the structure you've decided to use. Introduction should set the scene from your assignment, good clear structure that doesn't get into your argument but orientates the reader to what your argument's going to be is really helpful. And then conclusion will sum up the main points that you've covered. In your conclusion, it's important not to introduce new arguments or new ideas, but to summarize what you've written so far. Secondly, clear structure. I'd really encourage you to think about a set of headings that you use to draw your assignment together. You might want to base your structure around the learning outcomes that I've sort of discussed so far, maybe having those 4 headings or different words, but sort of cover those 4 headings will be a good way to set up your assignment so you know you'll be covering all of the areas. So clear structure, having headings, like putting actual headings in the text, makes it a lot easier for somebody to read it through. But I encourage you, when you think about your structure, it shouldn't just be like isolated sections that deal with learning outcomes, but they need a flow, they need a connection to them. So maybe at the beginning of a section, you're going to want to set up how this section follows on from the section before. So there's actually a flow to your argument. Thirdly, academic referencing. We expect you to reference all sources that you're using. There's a referencing guide that I've listed there that you can access through the university, which will be a good starting point. You should be referencing all academic literature you use. There'll be references again at the end of the slides, at the end of all of the sessions that I put together. You should be referencing any policy documents like the Gatsby benchmarks. You don't need to reference things which are to do with your school. You can just either describe those things or you can put them in appendices and then refer to Appendix 1 in your actual text. Yeah, you should be referencing all academic sources as a part of your writing. Description and analysis. With this assignment, there will be a need to describe sort of clearly around what's actually happening in your program. But there's also a need to back this up with analysis. So you're not just talking about what's happened, but you're giving a view about what's happened. And those views, that sort of analysis, looking at the strengths and weaknesses of what's going on, will be backed up by theories. This idea of a supported assessment being something which really sort of underpins what analysis is. Fifthly, reading around the subject. I really encourage you to be looking at doing a bit of extra reading to get going with your assignment. You should find a lot of helpful stuff in terms of the references on the actual sort of course pages and stuff, and in the slides. But you may want to look at some stuff in a bit more detail just to kind of get some specific information. You don't need to read everything that you reference. You just need to know what it's talking about. So don't worry if you've not gone and read up on all of the particular theories that we looked at. Probably looking at the reviewing against the slides will be enough for you. But you might want to just do a bit of extra reading to get some details around specific areas that are of interest to you. So maybe things to do with like careers in the curriculum or looking at SEND pupils might be examples of things you'd like to do a bit more reading around. In terms of reading around, some resources here from the University's library on the top one. Google Scholar, which is a good resource, quite good for searching through key terms. The ICEGS collection, so ICEGS is the department that I work for. We publish quite a lot of research reports to do with career guidance, so you might want to have a look there. And then the Careers and Enterprises research catalogue. They obviously do a lot of stuff to do with Gatsby and a lot of stuff to do with school provision. And those reports often have helpful links to further research that you could look into as well. So I'd suggest those in terms of resources for you to have a look at. Finally, I just wanted to just do a quick exercise looking at how you think about the learning outcomes, because sometimes the learning outcomes can be a bit confusing. So I've put some extra questions up against them to give you a bit of a few things to ask in a bit more sort of common sense parlance. So you can see how they're linked there. And those break down to those sorts of questions. So it might be helpful as a starting point just to work through those questions by yourself to get a bit of a feel for what you would want to cover in the assessment. So hopefully you found that helpful. Just to really re-emphasize, I'm very happy to help people put together assessments. I could look at plans. I could look at drafts. I would say that if you want me to look at a draft, at least send it to me a week in advance of the assignment, so I've got time to get it back to you. But yeah, if you get stuck in anything, please get in contact. Please book me for tutorials. If you come across any sort of personal problems, you're worried you can't submit it, the assignment for some reason, also get in contact with me. I think that's all for now. Yeah, so please do get in contact if I can be